Commander Zevral stood tall on the bridge of his massive ship. His green scales shimmered under the lights as he looked at the blue planet on the main screen. Earth, the humans called it. A small, wet world that would soon join the great Axioni collective. Prepare the message for the primitives, he ordered, his 4 fingers tapping impatiently on the control panel. Make it simple. Their technology is basic. They will understand quickly that resistance is pointless. The Axioni collective had conquered 17 planets already. Each time, the pattern was the same. Show overwhelming force, demand surrender, and watch the natives bow down. The collective needed resources and workers. Earth had both. Lieutenant Kirva, the science officer, approached with caution. Commander, I have completed my initial scan of their communications. These humans are unusual. Zevral didn't bother looking at her. All primitives are unusual in their own way. What matters is that they have metals we need and bodies that can work. But sir, their history shows— Send the message, Zevral interrupted. And prepare the first wave of fighters. Target their largest military installations. We'll show them our power immediately. In the United Nations building in New York, chaos erupted as screens worldwide showed the same message. A green-scaled alien with 4 arms demanding Earth's surrender. You will now join the Axioni collective, the message stated in perfect English. Resistance will result in destruction. You have 6 hours to lower your weapons and accept our rule. General Maria Santos of Brazil slammed her fist on the table. They're already positioning ships above our major cities. This isn't a negotiation, it's the beginning of an attack. Secretary General Anwar Rahman nodded grimly. I've spoken with all Security Council members. For the first time in our history, we have unanimous agreement. He looked around the room at representatives from nearly every nation on Earth. We fight. Commander Zevral was confused. The 6-hour deadline had passed, and instead of surrender messages, the humans had responded with a single transmission. We will not surrender our home. We suggest you reconsider. Begin the first attack, he ordered. Target their Pacific. Military bases planned. 20 Axioni fighters descended toward the naval base in Pearl Harbor. Their weapons were centuries ahead of anything humans possessed. The attack should have lasted minutes, but something unexpected happened. Human jets rose to meet them. Primitive, laughably simple aircraft by Axioni standards. Yet they flew in patterns the Axioni computers couldn't predict. They weaved and turned in ways that seemed random, even suicidal. Sir, the tactical officer called out, we've lost 3 fighters. Impossible, Zevral hissed. Their weapons can't penetrate our shields. They didn't use weapons for 2 of them. They crashed their aircraft into our fighters deliberately. Zevral's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. They sacrificed their pilots. Check your data again. Lieutenant Kirva approached again, her scales pale with concern. Commander, I tried to tell you. These humans have a unique history. They've fought approximately 15,000 wars. Against themselves. Against themselves? Zevral turned to her fully now. Their entire history is conflict. Where other species developed cooperation to survive, humans evolved as apex predators. They never stopped fighting. Even their entertainment is centered around conflict. On the screen, more human aircraft rose from different bases. Ground forces were moving too, not retreating from the alien ships, but moving toward them with weapons raised. They have no chance of winning, Zevral said, but his voice lacked conviction. They know that, Kirva replied softly. And they're fighting anyway. In an underground bunker beneath the Pentagon, President Eleanor Chen of the United States sat with military leaders from around the world, a truly global war room. The Chinese fighter pilot's sacrifice wasn't in vain, General Feng announced. The downed alien craft in the South China Sea has been recovered. Our scientists are already taking it apart. President Chen nodded. The Russians report the same, with the craft shot down over Siberia. We're sharing all data globally. General Santos pulled up satellite images. Their fighters have weaknesses at the engine junctions. They didn't design them expecting ramming attacks. No species would sacrifice pilots deliberately. But we would, said General Okafor of Nigeria. We've spent our entire history learning to defeat enemies stronger than ourselves. President Chen stood up. Humanity has never been truly united before, but we've never faced an external enemy before either. Our history of conflict has prepared us for this moment. She looked around the room. We know how to fight when outmatched. We know how to win against overwhelming odds. It's in our blood. 3 days into the invasion, Commander Zevral received a priority transmission from the Axioni High Command. The Supreme Counselor's face filled the screen, all 6 eyes narrowed in anger. Your mission is failing, Commander. How can primitives resist our technology? They're not behaving like any species we've encountered, Zevral admitted. They don't value individual survival over collective victory. They sacrifice themselves willingly. They're adapting to our weapons faster than predicted. Excuses, the counselor hissed. I am sending 3 more battle cruisers. End this resistance. After the transmission ended, Lieutenant Kirva approached, with new data. Sir, they've reverse-engineered components from our downed fighters already. They're learning our technology at an unprecedented rate. Zevral stared at the blue planet. What had seemed like an easy conquest now felt like something else entirely. Show me more of their history, he ordered. The screens filled with images of human wars through the centuries, ancient battles with primitive weapons, modern conflicts with increasingly deadly technology, nuclear weapons that they had developed, but somehow avoided using to destroy themselves. Their entire civilization, Kirva explained, is built on finding better ways to defeat enemies. Most species advance by cooperation. Humans advance through competition and conflict. In that moment, Zevral understood his terrible mistake. They hadn't invaded a primitive world. They had awakened the most dangerous predator species in the galaxy. On the smoking battlefield outside of Cairo, Lieutenant James Wong watched as human soldiers swarmed over a downed alien craft. Engineers were already connecting devices to its control systems. Scientists in hazmat suits carefully examined the alien pilot's body. Command says we've shot down 15 of their ships worldwide now, his sergeant reported. We're adapting. Wong nodded. Looking up at the stars where more alien ships waited, he should have felt fear, but instead felt something unexpected. Purpose. Humanity had spent its entire existence fighting itself. Now, finally, they had an enemy that united them. An enemy that had made a fatal error in judgment. They thought, we were weak. Wong said quietly. They didn't realize that we're the most lethal species alive. His radio crackled to life with news of another alien fighter shot down over Australia, and Wong smiled. The real war was just beginning. 2 weeks after the first attack, Dr. Sarah Chen worked without sleep in her lab beneath the Rocky Mountains. Around her, a team of scientists from 12 different countries studied pieces of alien technology. What had once been a nuclear research facility was now humanity's best hope for survival. The power source uses principles we've only theorized about, she told General Jackson, who had come to check on their progress. But we're figuring it out faster than expected. The general looked impressed. How is that possible? Their tech is centuries ahead of ours. Dr. Chen smiled as she held up a small device that glowed with blue energy. Because we've been imagining how to kill each other for thousands of years. Half of our scientific advances came from warfare. The aliens developed technology through cooperation. We developed it through conflict. On a nearby table, a captured alien weapon had been disassembled. Engineers were already building human-sized versions. We'll have working prototypes in days, not months, Dr. Chen promised. And we're sharing everything with labs around the world. Commander Zevral watched the holographic display with growing horror. In just 2 weeks, the humans had shot down 37 Axioni fighters. They were adapting far too quickly. Sir, Lieutenant Kirva reported, the 3 battle cruisers from High Command have arrived. Zevral barely acknowledged the news. He was studying footage of a recent battle over Moscow. The humans had somehow modified their primitive missiles to partially penetrate Axioni shields. Impossible, yet they had done it. Position the new cruiser over their population center called New Delhi, he ordered. We must show them our full power now. As the massive Axioni battlecruiser moved into position above the Indian city, Zevral felt confident again. Even with their rapid adaptation, humans couldn't possibly threaten a ship of this size. The cruiser's weapons charged, ready to level the city of 20 million people. But before it could fire, 12 human aircraft approached from different directions. The ship's defense systems easily destroyed 8 of them, but 4 broke through. The pilots didn't fire weapons. Instead, they aimed their planes directly at the ship's 4 main engine ports, a weakness the humans couldn't possibly know about. Each plane carried something new, bombs modified with alien technology. "Sir, the Delhi cruiser is reporting critical damage," the tactical officer shouted. "All 4 engines have been hit." Zevral watched in disbelief as the massive ship, over 2 kilometers long, began falling from the sky. The cruiser's captain managed to crash it into the unpopulated countryside rather than the city, but the message was clear. The humans had not only discovered a design weakness, they had willingly sacrificed pilots to exploit it. In the emergency command center beneath London, military leaders from around the world watched satellite footage of the downed cruiser. The Indian pilots knew it was a one-way mission, Admiral Gupta said quietly. They volunteered anyway. General Okafor nodded respectfully. Their sacrifice saved millions and gave us our first capital ship to study. President Chen looked at the tactical display showing alien positions around Earth. Their attack pattern has changed. They're becoming more cautious. They should be, General Santos replied. They expected an easy conquest against primitives. Instead, they found humanity. Supreme Counselor Axavith's 6 eyes glared at Commander Zevral through the holographic transmission. All 4 of his arms were clenched in rage. "You lost a battle. Cruiser to savages with propeller technology," the counselor roared. "The collective has never suffered such humiliation." Zevral lowered his head. "Supreme Counselor, these humans are unlike any species we've encountered. They learn at an incredible rate. Silence. I am sending the Dreadnought Collective Glory with a full invasion force. No more games. We will glass their major cities from orbit if needed." After the transmission ended, Lieutenant Kirva approached cautiously. "Sir, I've completed my full analysis of human history as you requested. Tell me something useful," Zevral muttered. "Something that will save us from disaster." Kirva displayed images of human wars throughout history. In their short time as a technological species, they've created over 12,000 different ways to kill each other. When they couldn't reach each other to fight directly, they built missiles that could cross their planet. When those weren't enough, they developed nuclear weapons that could destroy cities. Yet they survived, Zevral noted, because they also learned restraint. They developed rules for warfare, concepts like proportional response and civilian immunity. They're predators who created their own leash. Zevral studied the images of human battles. "And now we've freed them from that leash." "Exactly." Kirva's voice trembled. "We've given them an enemy they can fight without moral restriction. Their entire species is united for the first time in their history, and they're not just fighting for survival, they're enjoying it." 1 month after first contact, Dr. Chen presented her team's work to military leaders in the underground facility. On a test range behind thick protective glass, a soldier wearing a modified uniform aimed what looked like a rifle at an alien fighter hull recovered from a crash site. The weapon fired and a pulse of blue energy shot out, cutting through the alien metal like it was paper. "We've successfully adapted their energy weapons to human use," Dr. Chen explained, "and we're mass-producing them in factories worldwide." General Jackson examined one of the weapons. "How is this possible in just a month?" "Humans are very good at turning things into weapons," Dr. Chen said simply. "It's our specialty." On the outskirts of Sydney, Australia, teenagers Aaron Wong and Layla Patel worked in Layla's garage, surrounded by computers and strange equipment. They had been top hackers before the invasion. Now they were something more. "I've got it," Aaron exclaimed, looking at code scrolling across his screen. "Their communication encryption, I can see the pattern." Layla looked over his shoulder. "If we can crack this, we can listen to their battle plans, maybe even send false orders." Aaron nodded excitedly. They never expected us to understand their system so quickly. Their security is advanced but predictable. They haven't had to defend against hackers before. Well, Layla grinned. They've got thousands of us working on it. Now let's show them what Earth's best digital troublemakers can do. Commander Zevral received the report with a sense of dread. Humans had been spotted using modified Axioni weapons. Meanwhile, strange signal intrusions were appearing in their communication networks. They're inside our systems already, he told his officers. They're learning, adapting, evolving their tactics daily. An alert sounded, and the tactical display showed new human movements worldwide. They were no longer just defending. Small, fast craft were attacking Axioni positions, striking quickly and then retreating. They've moved to guerrilla tactics, the tactical officer observed. Zevral stared at the display, finally understanding the full magnitude of his error. No, he said quietly. This is just how they fight, how they've always fought. We didn't invade a primitive world. We invaded a planet of predators who have spent their entire existence perfecting the art of war. As if to emphasize his point, 3 more alerts sounded. Human forces had just captured an Axioni forward base in what they called Africa. The real war was just beginning. 3 months into the war, humanity was no longer merely defending Earth. In secret bases around the world, a new fleet was taking shape. Civilian ships, fishing vessels, and even pleasure boats were being converted into fighting vessels using captured alien technology. General Maya Okafor stood in the command center beneath Mount Kilimanjaro, looking at the global tactical display. As Supreme Allied Commander of Earth's United Defense Force, she had a simple but effective plan. The Axioni fight like they've read the same book of rules for 1,000 years, she told the gathered military leaders. They expect us to build big ships to fight their big ships. They expect us to create a formal fleet, so we won't. On the screens around her, thousands of small dots represented Earth's new fighting force. Not military vessels, but converted civilian craft, small, agile, and deadly. We will fight like the mosquito, not the lion, General Okafor continued. They cannot track what they cannot predict. The dreadnought Collective Glory arrived in Earth orbit with overwhelming firepower. 5 kilometers long, it carried enough weapons to reduce Earth's surface to ash. Commander Zevral had been ordered to serve under High Admiral Vexicor, who had personally taken command of the massive vessel. These humans have been fortunate so far, the High Admiral declared on the bridge. But luck is not strategy. We will crush them properly now. Zevral wasn't so sure. Admiral, I must advise caution. The humans have— Silence! Vexcor snapped. Your failures have embarrassed the collective. Watch and learn how real warriors conquer primitives. The tactical display showed the dreadnought moving toward North America, ready to destroy the human leadership believed to be hiding there. Escort vessels surrounded the massive ship in a standard defensive formation. Then the sensors lit up with warnings. Thousands of small craft approaching, the tactical officer shouted. They're coming from everywhere. Outside, what looked like a swarm of insects approached the Axioni fleet. Fishing boats, pleasure yachts, even surfboards, all modified with alien technology and piloted by humans willing to risk everything. This is madness, High Admiral Vexcor said in disbelief. They cannot hope to damage this vessel with toys. But the human craft didn't behave as expected. They moved in chaotic patterns no computer could predict. Some carried modified weapons. Others simply rammed the smaller Axioni vessels. Many were destroyed, but there were simply too many targets for the Axioni targeting systems. They're confusing. Our sensors, Zevral realized. Their attack has no pattern. A sudden explosion rocked the massive dreadnought. Impossible, the High Admiral roared. Captain Layla Chandra grinned as her team's computer virus took hold in the Axioni network. From their underground bunker in Mumbai, her group of international hackers had achieved what seemed impossible. They had broken into the alien battleship systems. We're in, she told her team. Send the false commands now. Aaron Wong, now. Her second-in-command typed furiously, sending orders for their escort ships to move out of defensive position. On the screens before them, they watched as several Axioni vessels suddenly broke formation, creating gaps in the defensive screen. They never expected an enemy to understand their system so quickly, Layla said. They've had no reason to create strong internal security. No one has ever hacked them before. Aaron nodded. Until they met humans. General Okafor watched as the swarm tactic worked perfectly. The Axioni ships, confused by both the chaotic movement patterns and the conflicting commands in their systems, couldn't maintain their defensive formation. Phase 2, she ordered. Around the world, larger converted vessels launched. These carried boarding teams, special forces soldiers from 24 nations equipped with reverse-engineered alien weapons and armor. As gaps appeared in the Axioni defense screen, these vessels slipped through, heading directly for the massive dreadnought. On the bridge of the collective glory, chaos reigned. Systems were failing. False commands appeared on screens. Small human vessels somehow penetrated their defensive screen. "Boarding parties detected," the security officer shouted. "They've breached levels 12 through 17. High Admiral Vexcor couldn't believe it. "How? Our shields should prevent any boarding." Zevral understood immediately. "They're using our own technology. They've adapted it already." "Impossible," the Admiral insisted. "No species learns that quickly." An explosion rocked the bridge as human forces fought their way toward the command center. "They don't think like us," Zevral explained, finally accepting the truth. "Their entire history is adaptation and warfare. They don't follow rules or patterns. They do whatever works, whatever gives them an edge." Colonel James Wong led his multinational boarding team through the alien vessel. They had lost half their people already, but they kept pushing forward. Their mission? Capture the dreadnought intact. Team 2, secure the engine room, he ordered through his headset. Team 3, continue toward the bridge. The alien corridors were filled with strange technology, but thanks to 3 months of studying captured vessels, the human soldiers knew exactly where to go and what to target. An alien warrior appeared, around the corner firing an energy weapon. 2 soldiers fell, but Wong returned fire with his own captured alien weapon, modified for human hands. "Keep moving," he shouted. "We only need to hold the ship for 30 minutes. That was how long Dr. Chen needed to upload the computer virus directly into the ship's main systems. A virus that would give Earth control of the most powerful vessel in the Axioni fleet. Commander Zevral watched in horror as human soldiers breached the bridge. High Admiral Vexcor died fighting, but it was pointless. The humans had somehow done the impossible. They had captured the flagship of the Axioni Collective. As he was taken prisoner, Zevral asked the human leader a simple question. How? How could you advance so quickly? How could you learn our technology, our tactics in mere months? Colonel Wong removed his helmet, revealing a face streaked with sweat and blood. Because we've been preparing for this our entire existence. Every war we fought against ourselves was practice for this moment. Zevral finally understood. You're not just willing to die to win. You're willing to change everything about how you fight. No rules, no patterns, just victory at any cost. Wong nodded. That's what makes us human. That's what makes us the most dangerous species you could have possibly challenged. Back on Earth, General Okafor received the news with grim satisfaction. The dreadnought was captured, though the cost had been high. 7,000 human volunteers had died in the attack, but they had succeeded where no other species had ever dared to try. The tide is turning, she told the world leaders gathered in the command center. With this ship, we can now take the fight to them. On screens worldwide, humanity watched as their forces raised Earth's flag on an alien vessel. The counterstrike had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. 4 months after first contact, Earth had done the impossible. The capture of the Axioni dreadnought collective glory had changed everything. Human scientists and engineers worked day and night to understand the massive ship's systems. More importantly, they gained access to the Axioni database, and what they found shocked everyone. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the United Nations Security Council, her face grim as she displayed holographic images from the alien records. The Axioni Collective isn't just an empire, she explained. It's a system built on slavery. They've conquered 17 other intelligent species and forced them to serve as workers, soldiers, and resources. The images showed alien beings of various shapes and forms, all working under Axioni supervision. Some looked almost human-like, while others were completely different. Crystalline beings, insect-like creatures, even entities that seemed made of living gas. These species were peaceful. They developed through cooperation, not competition. When the Axioni arrived with their weapons, they had no defense, Dr. Chen continued. They were conquered and their cultures destroyed. Their home planets were stripped of resources. President Eleanor Chen looked at the images with growing anger. So we're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for all these enslaved species. Exactly, Dr. Chen nodded. And the database contains coordinates for their homeworlds, Axioni bases, and the heart of their empire, a system called Axiom Prime. Captain Leila Chandra stood on the bridge of the Earth's first true starship, the captured Dreadnought, now renamed Vengeance. Around her, a crew of international specialists worked at stations that had been modified for human use. All systems ready, Captain, her first officer reported. The jump drive is functioning as expected. Leila nodded, still amazed that they were about to travel faster than light. Just months ago, such technology had been pure science fiction. Our mission is clear, she told her crew. We will travel to the Axioni processing station in the Rigel system and free the enslaved species being held there. This is not just about Earth anymore. It's about justice for all intelligent life. The massive ship hummed with energy as the jump drive engaged. Stars blurred on the view screen, and humanity took its first step into the wider galaxy. In the Rigel system, the Axioni processing station orbited a barren moon. Inside, thousands of beings from conquered worlds sorted resources, built weapons, and served their Axioni masters. None had hope of freedom until alarms began to sound. Station Commander Drexital couldn't believe the report. A dreadnought? Here? There must be a mistake. No mistake, sir, his officer replied, trembling. It's the collective glory, but it's not responding to recognition codes, and our scanners detect humans aboard. Before Drexital could respond, the station rocked with explosions. The security feeds showed impossible scenes. Human soldiers in modified Axioni armor fighting their way through the station corridors. They weren't just killing Axioni guards. They were freeing the slaves. Sergeant Maria Santos led her team through the alien station, using hand signals to direct their movements. Each soldier carried weapons reverse-engineered from Axioni technology, but modified in ways the aliens never imagined. Cell block ahead, she whispered into her comm. Life signs show at least 300 non-Axioni beings inside. When they reached the massive doors, their engineer placed a device on the control panel, a human-made hacking tool specifically designed for Axioni systems. The doors slid open, revealing hundreds of alien beings in what could only be described as a labor camp. The prisoners looked up in fear until they realized these new arrivals were fighting the Axioni. Hope dawned on faces that hadn't known hope in generations. We're from Earth, Santos announced through a translator device. We're here to free you. Among the freed prisoners was Tixara, a tall, slender being with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors with emotion. Once a philosopher and leader among the Navali people, he had spent 20 years in Axioni slavery after his world was conquered. As human medics provided care to the freed beings, Tixara approached Captain Chandra on the station's main deck, now secured by human forces. You fight like no species we have ever encountered, Tixara said through the translator, his skin shifting to a deep blue of wonder. How did you defeat the Axioni when so many others failed? Chandra smiled grimly. We evolved differently. On our world, competition was as important as cooperation. We never stopped being dangerous. Tixara's skin rippled with golden patterns, a sign of revelation among his kind. You evolved as apex predators. The Axioni never faced a sentient species that maintained its lethal edge. He looked around at the human soldiers, who were gently helping injured aliens toward medical stations. Yet you show compassion to those who cannot help you. You risk your lives for strangers from other worlds. That's the other half of being human, Chandra explained. We can be the most dangerous predators in the galaxy, or the most compassionate allies. The Axioni brought out the predator in us, but seeing what they've done to your people and others brings out our desire to protect. Back on Earth, the data from the Axioni database was being analyzed in depth. General Okafor stood before the Global Defense Council with a new strategic plan. The collective has ruled through fear for thousands of years, she explained. But we now know their weaknesses. Their empire is spread thin. Most of their forces are busy suppressing rebellions or extracting resources. On the large screen, a map of nearby star systems appeared, showing Axioni territories and the locations of conquered species' homeworlds. We have an opportunity not just to defend Earth, but to free the galaxy from these tyrants, Okafor continued. With the technology we've adapted and with the help of the liberated species who know Axioni systems better than we do, we can take the fight directly to them. Secretary General Rahman looked thoughtful. So we've moved from defending our planet to liberating an entire galaxy. That's quite a change in mission. It is, Okafor agreed. But if we only free ourselves and leave others enslaved, what kind of species would that make us? President Chen stood up. We did not ask for this war, but having been forced into it, we now find ourselves uniquely qualified to end the Axioni threat, not just for ourselves, but for all sentient beings under their control. Around the table, leaders from around the world nodded in agreement. What had begun as a desperate defense of Earth had evolved into something much greater, a war of liberation for all oppressed species in the galaxy. In orbit above Earth, Tixara looked down at the blue planet from a viewport on the human space station. Behind him stood representatives from 6 other freed species, all brought to Earth by Captain Chandra's mission. They are so young as a civilization, one of the crystalline Vox commented, yet they already reach for the stars. Not just reach, Tixara replied, his skin glowing with hope. They fight for them, and they fight for us. The Axioni never expected to face a species that could match their aggression yet be driven by compassion. He placed one of his 4 hands against the viewport, a gesture of respect in his culture, the Ao. Axioni awakened the most dangerous species in the galaxy, he said quietly. But they will soon learn that humans are dangerous not just because of how they fight, but because of what they fight for. 6 months into the war, Earth had become the center of something unprecedented. A galactic resistance. In the sprawling underground complex beneath Geneva, representatives from 7 formerly enslaved species gathered to form a coalition with humanity. The meeting chamber, once used for international diplomacy, now hosted beings from across the stars. They came in all forms: the tall, color-shifting Navali, the insect-like Galactic with their compound eyes, the crystalline Vox whose bodies refracted light, and 4 other species with equally diverse forms. General Okafor stood before them, a holographic display of the galaxy between her and the alien representatives. Together, we have a chance that none of us would have alone, she told them. Each of your species brings unique knowledge and abilities. Combined with Earth's particular talents, we can end the Axioni threat forever. Tixara, now the official representative of the freed Navali, stepped forward. His skin rippled with patterns of deep blue and gold, signs of hope and determination. The Navali were master geneticists before our enslavement, he said. We can help humans enhance their resistance to Axioni bioweapons. The leader of the EEIJ, Galactic, clicked her mandibles in agreement. And my people can share our knowledge of advanced propulsion systems. What took the Axioni centuries to develop, we can help you understand in months. One by one, the representatives offered their specialized knowledge. The crystalline Vox would teach humans about multidimensional mathematics, revolutionizing Earth's understanding of faster-than-light travel. The gaseous Mira offered secrets of energy manipulation that would transform human power systems. President Chen looked around at these strange allies with gratitude. Together, we will build a new future, one where no species lives in fear of another. In makeshift training camps around the world, A new kind of military force was taking shape. Former resistance fighters from across the galaxy trained alongside human special forces, learning from each other. Colonel Wong watched as a squad of human soldiers demonstrated guerrilla tactics to a group of cultic warriors. Despite their insect-like appearance, the aliens were quick learners. The concept of asymmetric warfare is completely new to them, Wong explained to Tixara, who stood beside him. The Axioni fight in predictable patterns. They expect their enemies to do the same. Tixara's skin shifted to a thoughtful green. Most species in the galaxy evolved through cooperation, not competition. We never needed to develop the kinds of strategies humans take for granted. Wong nodded. When we're outgunned, we don't surrender, we change the rules. That is what makes your kind so valuable to this alliance, Tixara replied. You turn weakness into strength. It is not a concept that occurred naturally to most sentient beings. Across the field, a human sergeant was teaching Navali volunteers how to set an ambush. Despite their normally peaceful nature, the Navali learned quickly, their eyes burning with the desire to free their homeworld. On the bridge of the starship Vengeance, Captain Chandra reviewed the battle plans. In the 6 months since first contact, humanity had built a small but effective fleet using captured Axioni vessels and technology shared by their new allies. The cultic engineers have enhanced our jump drive efficiency by 200%, her science officer reported. We can now reach the Navali homeworld in 2 jumps instead of 5. Chandra nodded. And the weapon systems? The Vox have helped us modify the main cannons. They're now 70% more effective against Axioni shields. It still amazed Chandra how quickly everything was moving. In just half a year, humanity had gone from fighting for survival on Earth to preparing for interstellar liberation campaigns. The combined knowledge of 7 alien species, all eager to free their homeworlds, had accelerated human technological development by centuries. Set course for the Navali system, she ordered. It's time to take their home back. Supreme Counselor Axvith of the Axioni Collective paced in his private chambers on Axiom Prime. Before him, holographic reports showed disaster after disaster. Slave rebellions were breaking out across the Empire. 3 minor outposts had already fallen to the combined human-alien forces. How? He demanded of the gathered high commanders. How could primitives from a backwater world threaten an empire that has stood for 4,000 years? Commander Zevral, recently returned in a prisoner exchange, stepped forward cautiously. Supreme Counselor, we severely underestimated the humans. They think differently than any species we've encountered. Explain, Axavith ordered. All 6, eyes focused intently. The humans appeared primitive because their technology was underdeveloped. But what makes them dangerous isn't their technology. It's their minds, Zevral explained. They think in terms of conflict. Where we see optimal solutions, they see vulnerabilities to exploit. He activated a holographic display showing human history. They converted their entire industrial capacity to war production in weeks. Their civilians volunteer for high-risk missions. Even their entertainment, their art, their games are filled with scenarios of overcoming overwhelming odds. Axvith watched the images of human warfare throughout history with growing concern. And now they've united the conquered species against us, Zevral continued. They're teaching our former slaves to fight like humans. The Navali, the Cultic, the Vox, all of them are learning human tactics. The Supreme Counselor turned away in disgust, but Zevral pressed on, desperation in his voice. Don't you understand? We didn't just invade a planet. We awakened a species that has spent its entire evolutionary history perfecting the art of killing threats to its survival. And now, they see us as that threat. In orbit around the Navali homeworld, the battle, 3 Earthships accompanied by vessels crewed by freed aliens, engaged the Axioni occupation force. On the planet below, Navali resistance fighters rose up, coordinating their attacks with the space battle. Inside the main Axioni control center on the planet's surface, human and Navali special forces fought side by side. Colonel Wong led the assault using tactics no Axioni commander could predict. They're falling back, shouted a Navali fighter, her skin flashing with patterns of triumph. Wong nodded grimly. Press the advantage, don't give them time to regroup. Within hours, the Axioni forces surrendered. After 50 years of occupation, the Navali homeworld was free again. As news of the victory spread, rebellions ignited across a dozen more worlds. Species that had lived in fear for generations found new courage, inspired by stories of human resistance and the growing alliance. On Earth, the United Defense Council received the report with solemn satisfaction. One world liberated, but many more to go. The Axioni still control hundreds of systems, General Okafor reminded the Council. This is just the beginning. But it is a beginning, President Chen replied. For the first time in 4,000 years, the Axioni Collective is on the defensive, and we won't stop until every enslaved world is free. Across the room, Tixara watched the humans with wonder, his skin glowing with the bright yellow of hope. In all our history, he said quietly, we never imagined our liberators would come from a world so distant, a species so different from our own. The Axioni thought they were attacking primitives. Instead, they awakened humanity's true potential, not just as warriors, but as protectors of all sentient life. Congratulations, you just declared war on the most lethal species alive. Part 6. The reckoning 1 year after first contact, the war had completely transformed. What began as an Axioni invasion of Earth had become a galactic revolution. 23. Worlds had been liberated by the Earth-led alliance, and the Axioni Collective was facing something it had never known in 4,000 years of conquest: defeat. Admiral Layla Chandra, promoted after her successful campaigns, stood on the bridge of the flagship Freedom, formerly the pride of the Axioni fleet. Around her, a crew of humans and aliens from a dozen species worked together with practiced efficiency. The view screen showed their target: Axiom Prime, the heart of the Axioni Empire. All ships report ready, Admiral, her first officer announced. Chandra nodded, studying the tactical display. The combined fleet was the largest ever assembled against the Collective, over 200 vessels of various sizes, many captured from the Axioni themselves. Send the message to all ships, she ordered. Today we end the Axioni threat once and for all. In the war room beneath the rebuilt United Nations building in New York, General Okafor and President Chen monitored the battle preparations. Although they were light years from the front lines, advanced communication technology developed with alien help allowed them to remain in contact with the fleet. Our intelligence from liberated worlds suggests the Axioni are developing a superweapon, General Okafor reported grimly, something capable of causing stars to go nova. President Chen's eyes widened. They would destroy entire systems? The Supreme Counselor has grown desperate, Okafor explained. If they can't maintain their empire, they're willing to destroy it, starting with Earth. Our sun would be their first target. Then Admiral Chandra's mission is even more critical, President Chen said. We must end this now. On Axiom Prime, Supreme Counselor Axivith watched as scientists made final adjustments to the Nova device. The massive weapon, housed in an orbital platform, could target stars up to 50 light-years away. The humans have left us no choice, he told his assembled commanders. They've turned our slaves against us, they've dismantled our outposts, they've stolen our technology and improved upon it in ways we never imagined. Commander Zevral, now serving as an advisor after witnessing human warfare firsthand, spoke cautiously. Supreme Counselor, using this weapon will destroy inhabited worlds. Billions will die. Better billions die than our 4,000-year empire fall to primitives, Axvith hissed. The humans must learn the price of challenging the Collective. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the command center. On the main screen, hundreds of ships appeared at the edge of the system. The human-led Alliance fleet had arrived. Begin charging the Nova device, Axivith ordered. Target the human home system. The battle for Axiom Prime erupted on a scale never before seen in the galaxy. The Axioni home fleet, still powerful despite recent losses, moved to intercept the Alliance forces. But they immediately faced something they couldn't counter: unpredictability. While the Axioni ships moved in standard formations, the Alliance vessels attacked from all angles. Small, fast ships piloted by humans and Galactic warriors darted between the larger vessels. Nevali telepaths aboard key ships coordinated attacks through methods the Axioni couldn't detect or block. Admiral Chandra watched the battle unfold, making split-second decisions based on instinct as much as strategy. Task Force Alpha, break through their right flank, she ordered. Task Force Beta, maintain pressure on their center. Her alien second officer, a Vox named Crystal Song, monitored the enemy movements. They're falling back to their inner defense line, and we're detecting massive energy readings from a station in high orbit. The Nova weapon, Chandra realized. All ships, priority target is that orbital platform. On the surface of Axiom Prime, another battle raged. Special Forces teams led by Colonel Wong had infiltrated the capital city, their mission to capture or eliminate the Axioni leadership. With them were representatives from each liberated species, determined to face their former oppressors. Fighting through the grand corridors of the Supreme Council building, Wong's team pushed toward the central command chamber where intelligence indicated Axivith was directing the battle. "They're falling back," Wong called out as another group of Axioni guards retreated from their position. "Keep moving forward." Beside him, Tixara used a modified energy weapon designed for his four-armed physiology. The once peaceful philosopher had become a warrior, fighting to ensure his people would never be enslaved again. "The command center should be through these doors," Tixara said, his skin flashing with determination patterns. Wong nodded to his demolition expert. "Breach it." In orbit, Admiral Chandra's flagship had broken through the Axioni defenses, heading directly for the Nova weapon platform. The massive device was nearly charged, its energy readings reaching critical levels. "We won't reach it in time," Crystal Song reported. "It will fire in 3 minutes." Chandra made an instant decision. All power to forward shields, we're ramming it. The crew looked at her in shock, but no one questioned the order. The Freedom accelerated, pushing its engines beyond safety limits. "Broadcast to all ships," Chandra ordered. "Continue the mission, regardless of our fate." The Freedom streaked toward the weapon platform, taking heavy fire from defensive batteries. Shields failed, hull plating buckled, but the massive ship maintained its course. "Impact in 30 seconds, the helmsman announced calmly. Chandra gripped her command chair, remembering Earth's blue oceans and green forests. "For home," she whispered. The doors to the Axioni command center exploded inward. Colonel Wong led the charge, his team securing the room with practiced efficiency. Supreme Counselor Axivith stood at the center, his multiple limbs trembling with rage and fear. "It's over," Wong told him, weapon raised. "Order your forces to stand down." Axivith's 6 eyes narrowed with hatred. "What are you? How could primitive apes defeat the greatest empire the galaxy has ever known?" Before Wong could answer, a blinding flash lit up the view screen showing the space battle. The Nova weapon platform and Admiral Chandra's flagship disappeared in a massive explosion. "No!" Axivith cried out, believing his weapon had fired successfully. But the tactical display told a different story. The Nova device had been destroyed before it could activate, at the cost of the Freedom and her crew. Wong lowered his weapon slightly. "You made a simple mistake," he explained. "You saw our compassion, our art, our cooperation, and thought it made us weak. You didn't realize those things only exist because we mastered something else first, survival at any cost." Around the room, representatives of formerly enslaved species moved forward, their eyes fixed on their one-time masters. "Everything that makes us human, our creativity, our determination, our ability to innovate, evolved from our need to overcome threats," Wong continued. "When you attacked Earth, you didn't declare war on a primitive species. You declared war on the most lethal predators in the galaxy. 3 months later, representatives from 23 sentient species gathered on Earth to form a new galactic council. Unlike the hierarchical collective, this new alliance was founded on principles of mutual defense and self-determination. In the Great Hall built specially for this historic occasion, Tixara addressed the assembly. His skin glowed with patterns, never seen before in his species, hope and potential. The universe is vast and largely unknown, he told the gathered delegates. There may be threats beyond our current understanding waiting in the darkness between stars. But we now have a defender who has mastered the art of war so thoroughly that they transformed it into peace. On the wall behind him hung a memorial to those lost in the final battle, with Admiral Chandra's name at the center. Her sacrifice had saved not just Earth, but countless inhabited worlds. Humanity's greatest strength isn't their capacity for violence, Tixara continued. It's their ability to direct that lethal potential toward safeguarding life. As the new council began its work, planning expeditions to explore beyond known space, Colonel Wong, now General Wong, met with representatives from across the Alliance. They established the Sentinel Initiative, a program to monitor developing civilizations from a distance, ready to intercede if another threat like the Collective emerged, but otherwise allowing each species to find its own path to the stars. We weren't meant to be the galaxy's conquerors, Wong told them. We're its immune system, and we'll make sure nothing like the Axioni Collective ever threatens free species again. As delegates dispersed to their ships ready to carry news of the Alliance to their homeworlds, Wong gazed up at the night sky. Just 1 year ago, humans had believed themselves alone in the universe. Now they stood as guardians of a free galaxy. The Axioni had made the worst mistake possible. They had declared war on the most lethal species alive. But in doing so, they had helped humanity discover its true purpose. The end